I'm proud to present the first lady for our today's lineup. Liji, welcome. Hi.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thank you for joining our conference. How are you?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, we are very well. Unfortunately, this year a live conference because of the complete situation, so we are all adapting to working in that way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I see.
I think
Yeah,
things are going just fine.
no problem. Yeah.
So, since we are a bit of the schedule, you can start sharing your presentation, and I will put it
Sure.
live so you can learn us a little bit more about the AI that's becoming more and more popular
Yes.
on the Azure side.
Yes.
Okay.
You can confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, that's
Okay.
live, and the stage is yours. Enjoy.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, the places where you're joining from. Thank you for making time to join this session on chatbots using Azure AI. So a big thank you to our sponsors before we get started, without whom we couldn't have done this event at all. Like Melody said, in a virtual world, it's still great that we're able to connect and as a community and to be able to do this. So thank you for making time to join this session. A little bit about myself. My name is Liji Thomas. I'm a manager in the modern app dev space with a company called Valorem Reply. We're based out of the US, Kansas City. We have offices across the globe, and I work from their India office, and that's my hometown that you see behind. And no, I don't work from the houseboats, though I do wish I did. So you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter, or I occasionally blog at my blog site as well. So I'm moving on from perhaps the most beautiful site in my entire presentation. So for this session, the key takeaways that I'm hoping you would go away with is an understanding of what conversational AI is, why conversational AI, and of course, how to go about it. So the agenda of the day would be a little background into AI and conversational AI, then covering the conversational AI landscape before we deep dive into Azure Bot Service, Azure Cognitive Services, and we open it up for Q&A after that. So taking a step back, especially in the recent wake of the pandemic and COVID-19, we've seen the world kind of change the way that we've been living and working globally. And it's probably going to stay there for a long time before we return to a new normal, as they say. So even from an organizational perspective, we see that enterprises are accelerating their digital transformation journeys. And conversational AI is a key component of that mission. A lot of companies have gone remote. A lot of centers have had to close down because of the lockdown restrictions. And that's led to an increasing demand on customers and even on the employees, the pressure on the organizations. So earlier, what used to be a differentiator is now more or less like a necessity for most organizations. So conversational AI has again come to take headlines on several pages, and we're going to try and see how to get started with this and the what, why, and how of conversational AI. So the story thus far. Especially in our industry, we know that in the past couple of decades, we've been through a lot, especially with the PC era, the internet era, the mobile era, and now the AI era, or the industry 4.0, as they call it. But what's most intriguing is that AI, or artificial intelligence, is not really new. As in, artificial intelligence, it's been there for quite a while, and it's actually a superset of a couple of other spheres as well. AI, or at a very high level, is the ability to mimic or to augment human capabilities. And if you come from a Microsoft background, you would remember a Microsoft assistant by name of Clippy, especially in the Word documents. And did not have a very successful career, probably was an idea ahead of its time. But starting from Clippy to Deep Blue Chess, the computers that defeated the chess grandmasters. So all of them had some form of an AI in it. But interestingly, AI in those era, had rule sets that were programmed by programmers, and beyond a certain point, it was not able to code for these rule sets. And that's when a fundamentally different paradigm of machine learning comes into place. So machine learning talks about AI techniques that move away from these hard-coded rule sets, and they think about a different paradigm which involves not explicitly programming machines, but teaching machines, where machines actually learn. And of all the different ways in which you can do machine learning, again, there are so many algorithms in that, which deep learning is just a subset of ML. So because these terms seem to be very synonymously and interchangeably used in our industry, it's good to understand that it's at least not the same. But we probably won't get into the nuances of all of that, but I'd invite your attention to the timeline below. And it's interesting because it looks like AI has been around for quite a while, I mean, from the 1950s or 60s, which brings us to the next question as to then, why did we not hear about it for a long time? Or rather, why is it that we're hearing about it just in the past 5 or 6 years now, right? So to answer that question, let's ask ourselves another major question. How is AI programming different from the structured programming or the traditional programming that we know of? There are so many ways you can answer that, but to just keep it simple, the way I'd like to answer that question, when my kids kind of ask me what's the difference there, AI programming is about teaching machines, and it's not about instructing machines. You can imagine that in the same concept as you want to teach someone, or if I want to teach my preschooler, like the difference between a cat and a dog, I would not want to show her every single cat on the planet. I probably just show her 1 or 2 cats and maybe an image or so. And then she would be able to say in a couple of days what a cat is and also what a cat is not. So we're going to extrapolate on that conversation and see what it takes to really teach machines. So a couple of things. One, we need data, and we need loads of it. Probably something that did not exist during those times, the 1950s and 60s. Secondly, we wanted infrastructure. And again, that kind of powerful computing capability was not something that was existent during those times. Thirdly, we wanted advanced computing models or algorithms that could bring together this data and leverage that infrastructure and take power out of that. Again, all three were not available during those times, which gives us a clue as to why now. So apparently there has been breakthroughs that have been enabling AI, especially on these 3 areas like big data, cloud computing, and powerful algorithms. And these have actually been, giving rise to a lot of areas in this, a lot of research and a lot of innovation in these capabilities. Which brings us to the evolution of chatbots. So the reason we're discussing this is because chatbots follow more or less a very similar pattern to AI itself. So if you look from in the PC era, people would just interact with their desktop application. And then you come to internet application. And then you come to mobile application, and now the chatbots. So just comparing with the last paradigm that we had, people do not want to download an application on a smartphone for each and everything anymore. And every time they go to a website or a smartphone, it's intriguing because till now, the game was that the humans need to learn the language of the machines. So if you need to know how to interact with the website, you need to know how to navigate. You need to know where to find what. And similarly with any application, it's expected, the onus is on the human to sort of understand how to find his or her way around with machines. Chatbots change that game. Now, the machines have to learn how to interact with the humans. The machines learn to understand our language. Or in other words, we can interact with technology the same way we interact with each other. So I can talk to a computer, I can talk to an application just same way I talk with anyone else. So that's a huge win for us. So just so we don't assume, and because we come from different backgrounds, what exactly is a chatbot? You know, we because there are again a lot of glossy terms that do the rounds in terms of virtual assistant and conversational agent and whatnot. But simply put, a chatbot is nothing but a computer program. You know, it simulates human conversation through text or through voice or through both. And so the software, it can either stand alone, or you can put it on your website, or maybe, or it can stand alone like you have Alexa or Siri. But at the end of the day, it's just another computer program. What can a bot do, or what's in a bot? So that depends on your business case, really. A bot can do something as simple as answering user questions to doing very sophisticated things like, you know, setting up your dinner reservation or your dentist appointment or whatnot. But why chatbots? Some of this is a no-brainer, like the fact that, you know, we just discussed right now. It feels less like using a computer, and so the interface or the you know, the way we interact is completely different. It feels more like dealing with a person. But of course, beyond that, it's available 24/7. You know, a bot would be there on weekends or late evenings. It probably will not take days off, will not ask for bonus. And it's available. It's got immediate responses because the customers now, or our clients, have got very less wait times, and it's a reduced cost. Agree, the initial investment in getting a chatbot up and running is really huge, but then return of investment and the from a cost perspective, it's less. You'll be able to reach new channels. So imagine you have a lot of customers in Facebook or in Twitter or any other channels or any other markets for that matter. You can just deploy a chatbot there versus, you know, opening up a new office space. And of course, everything adds up together to the fact that it increases engagement with your customers. So a little bit on the history of the chatbot. Again, it follows exactly the same trajectory as AI does as well. So it's been there for a long time. You can see from 1966 to 1972. So Alexa and Siri was probably not the first ones just there. And again, the future looks very promising because statistics show that there's always a huge scope for this kind of technology. One interesting statistic says that by 2025, 95% of customer transactions are going to be powered by AI bots, either by phone or by text. And a lot of companies and a lot of you know, actual brands have been using these in various application areas, either in cloud or on-prem. You know, different brands, different you know, areas, different retail, healthcare, you know, health, hospitality, and you see various brands that have been actually using these conversational agents, and very, very innovative concepts as well. Like some of the interesting ones that I've put up here is one, for example, that I found was Rose Intelligence. If you're curious, Rose is an AI lawyer chatbot that helps lawyers by researching and going through all this tons of data and really providing the exact information to the lawyer so that he or she does what they do best, that's represent their client. And Tara is again a very interesting one. It's a recruiter bot. So what it does is it matches the profiles of the employees, of the candidates with the job description. It probably even looks at the GitHub activities of the developers and collects these data points, and it makes accurate selections there. So it helps talent acquisition. Wobot is a talk therapy bot that's pretty intense. It's built on the concepts of CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT is one of the most researched you know, principles in healing with depression. And so this helps with those clinical approaches there. Okay, so as we wrap up the first section of the entire session, we'll just do a quick recap on at least debunking a few chatbot myths if we ever had coming into the session. Chatbots are a new technology. Now you know that's not true. It's been around. It's developing for obvious reasons, and it's getting a little more relevant now, but probably not new. Chatbots can only support customer services. Again, I've heard this a lot, and now you know that that's not true. There's lots of use cases for chatbots, very interesting ones too. All bots use AI, not necessarily. Not every bot that you see out there is probably an AI chatbot. Some bots are very hard-coded with rule sets. Some bots are programmed to learn and integrated with very complicated AI services. Chatbots versus humans. It's a little controversial because they say that chatbots are going to take up the jobs of humans, are going to displace humans, and et cetera, et cetera. Probably not completely true, because even in customer support scenarios, for example, what we get to see is that the chatbots may take up to maybe 30% of the first line user queries, but that means that you're freeing up the human agents to do something that's far more creative and that's far more human, so to speak. And the last one, chatbots are difficult to build. So I'll leave you at that, and I'll let you make that that opinion there, because the rest of the session is going to talk about how difficult or how easy it is to build chatbots. Okay, so let's move on to the technical bits, and I could not have put it any better than Satya himself prophetically put it in his terms in Build conference a couple of years back, in fact, when he said, the human language is the new UI layer and bots are like the new applications. How true. After years, we've come to see that. And that's specifically why Microsoft has invested a lot in their AI infrastructure. If you look at the Azure AI platform, so all the AI is obviously coming in through the Azure AI platform. And there are certain very high sections for these. So one, you have AI services. Those are cloud developer services that are just ready to consume. You have Azure infrastructure that provides the computing power, as we saw. And then we have the tools and the SDKs for the developer community. So if you want to connect the dots with the history that we just saw right now, the couple of things that the breakthroughs that were enabling AI right now, we saw that we have the infrastructure, we have the computing power in terms of Spark and FPGA and GPU and CPU now, AI services. So this is what we're going to look at in detail for this session. I just wanted to show you where it fits in the overall spectrum. So you have pre-built AI, if you want to just start consuming that. You have platforms for conversational AI. You can also build custom AI models using Azure Machine Learning. And of course, for the developer community, you have tools for SDKs to help with all of these. So for our session today, we would be going in detail to discuss about bot service and about cognitive services. So here's the bot development lifecycle. So those of us who come from a development background, we know that we talk about software development lifecycle, or SDLC, so to speak. In a bot world, we would just translate that into bot development lifecycle. So there are various facets to that, and it's probably very similar to what we do in SDLC as well. First up, we plan. So we need to maybe sit down with our designers or our analysts, and we plan what's going to make it to that bot, and then we get down to building the actual bot. Once we built it, we test it. And then we go ahead and we publish the bot. We connect it to the various channels. And that's, honestly, I hate to say this, but that's where all the work really begins. Because once you connect it, once you publish it, once you connect it and you put your bot out there in the market, that's where the real hard work starts. Because your people will start interacting with your bot, and you get all that data and all that insights, you evaluate that, and you go back to your drawing board, and you probably have to go through that iterative circle again and just building, testing, publishing, connect, etc. We typically say in our circles, it takes a village to raise a child. It says it takes a village to raise a bot. So it's a lot of hard work, in which we would really appreciate the value that a platform would provide, if possible, in helping us in this various regards, right? I wish I had tools and SDKs or a custom-built platform that would help me with planning, building, testing, publishing, connecting, and evaluating my bot, right? So how cool would that be? Which is exactly what the Azure Bot Service does. So the Azure Bot Service, so to speak, is a custom-built environment. It's an integrated environment within Azure that's purpose-built for bot development. I mean, you can use the Azure Bot Service today to create a bot, and you can use the Azure Bot Service, as we'll see in a while, to go through all those separate phases that we saw in planning, building, testing, developing, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that is up. So yeah, so let's take a look at the Azure Bot Service. Let's take a look at how we're doing on time as well. Cool. So I will quickly shift my screen and try to show you the bot service that we're trying to create. Okay. And, great. So I'm in my Azure subscription. And what I would do is I would just go and search for a bot. So this is where I would create a bot. And I can use any bot handle that I want to create. I can create Azure Belgrade. I would choose my subscription, my resource group. I can choose my location, my pricing tier. You can even keep it free as you'd like. Just a couple of parameters there, and you would just hit create. So that's probably going to take a while, but I will explain on the meantime. So how you use Azure Bot Services, you would just go into the environment, just go into your Azure subscription. You get free Azure subscription for 30 days as well. And you just need to search for a resource called bot, and you would just spin up the bot service. So that's your deployment that's happening there. It would just take 2 minutes to that. So once your bot is created within the Azure Bot Service, within your Azure environment itself, you would be able to build your bot. You would be able to test your bot. You have a test panel within the bot service itself. You would be able to download the source code of the bot that you see. So what you get out of the box is a very simple bot, which translate that to the hello world example that you would see in C#. So what we are building right now is what's called an eco bot. So the eco bot does nothing, but it just echoes back whatever you send it. So if I say hello, it will just send hello back. So that's all it does. And you can download the source code for that. You can test that within the Azure Bot Service. And then you can connect it and you can deploy it within Azure itself. So here's what I get. So I get my overview page, and let's take a look at so the test. So I'm not doing anything at all here. I'm going directly to my test panel, and let's try this. So I'm gonna try hi. Let's see. And it goes hi. Right? So this is what I get out of the box. It's as I said, it's a very simple eco bot, and it just echoes back whatever message that I get. I know not super useful there, but I'll tell you what we can actually do is we can go to the panel here, overview. We also have the bot profile panel. We have the configuration panel. We have the channels panel here. So this is probably going to be the most interesting panel for you because as you can see here, this shows the complete power of the chatbot. The beauty of the Azure Bot Service is, like other platforms that you want to use, the single source code that we write here can be used, or that single bot can be used to deploy to multiple channels. I mean, you don't have to create 10 bots for 10 different channels. That one single bot that I have, maybe today the eco bot, I can connect it to all these channels that you see, which is the power of the Azure Bot Service out of the box. So I can connect it to Telegram, Skype, Facebook, email, the latest being Alexa as well. So all that and more can be actually done using the Azure Bot Service. So if you are a developer and if you are interested, you can even start another way in creating these bots. You can go and download bot templates, which are available in Microsoft, and you can just use those templates within your IDE of your choice. Say in Visual Studio 2019, you can do file, new project, and just like you get every other template, you also get bot templates. and you can start from the other end, so to speak, and then you can write in all your logic and use the publish profile to publish it into Azure. And by the way, you don't really have to publish it into Azure as well. You can choose any cloud of your choice. So that's at the very high level about Azure Bot Service. Now, you might be thinking, as I said, the EcoBot is not super helpful in itself. What really makes a bot very intelligent or very capable, so to speak, is the ability for any conversational agent to behave like a human. And we know what really adds power to our human-like capabilities. So we have language, our ability for vision, search, speech, decision. These are the areas which makes us really the superhumans that we are. And Microsoft has been investing a lot in this space, in the Microsoft AI space, in fact, for decades, especially in the Microsoft research centers. And they've attained human parity today in a lot of these areas. But what they've also been parallelly doing is they've been using this AI services within their own products. So products that you and I have been using on a daily basis, like Bing or Office 365 or Xbox, are really using the output of these AI centers, of this AI research. And so if you, next time you try PowerPoint or Mail or Bing, but what's most interesting for us, for the developer community, is Microsoft AI Research has now taken these AI services out and they have bundled it into what's called cognitive services. So this is another offering from Azure Cognitive Services, wherein you and I can now start using these services. It does not necessarily have to be in a chatbot. You can use that in any applications, but especially with a chatbot, it makes a lot of sense. So you have so many areas, you have so many topics for Azure Cognitive Services under vision, speech, language, decision. And under each of that, so to speak, you have so many APIs. Like for language, you have a couple. For speech, you have a couple. Each of these stand for APIs that we can use in our bots. So if I want to ask a bot, how do I set up VPN on my laptop, just for example, and then my bot is going to say, okay, here are the instructions to set up VPN. The problem is I could, or anyone, 10 people could ask that in 10 different ways. And I want a system where I can actually tell the bot that irrespective of however that's being asked, this is the answer you need to give, right? So the service that really helps me in that regard, I have a service called QAMaker.ai. So if you go to QAMaker.ai, you can create a knowledge base today that shows that set of questions and the answer there. Let's make it a little more complicated. So say I have an email bot, and the email bot is just, I want to tell the bot to, okay, reply, thank you. Same thing. 10 people will say that in 10 different ways. Someone might say respond, thank you. Someone will say reply by email, thank you. Reply with thank you. And I want to tell my bot that however the person utters, so those are called utterances, the intent is to send an email, right? And even more, the subject could actually change, or the message itself could change. So I want to abstract that, and I want to put that into an entity called email message. So it's a little more complicated than what a Q&A maker can handle, which is why we have another service called Luis. It's called language understanding. If you go to luis.ai, you can actually build language models of this sort. So what we're coming to say is that, from the outset, if you look at it, when a person interacts with a bot, you might think that it's quite simple. So you ask a question and you get an answer. But now you know what happens under the hood, right? So when you ask a question, the first thing you need to do, the bot needs to do, is understand the intent of the user's ask. And the service called Luis helps in that. To know what to respond, to know the answer, you can use Q&A Maker. And likewise, there are tons of services that are available. Like you can, for proofreading, you can use Bing spell check, you can use content moderation, you can use search, Bing custom search, voice capabilities, so on and so forth. So there are so many services that you can use depending on your specific use case. And really, we've just scratched the surface here in terms of the capabilities of Azure Bot Service. But just so you know, that there are advanced virtual assistant bot frameworks that are available in the market today, and from Microsoft. So there are customers who built on that. If you're curious, I'd encourage you to please check out this assistant that's available on Google Assistant today. It's the La Liga virtual assistant, if you're a La Liga fan. That was built by Microsoft in partnership with La Liga. So this is built in Azure Bot Service, and it uses tons of Azure Cognitive Services as well. So you get math, statistics, and player information, etc. So even outside La Liga, there are a lot of customers who are actually using Azure Bot Service to create the apps that you see. And we come full circle to understand that. So now you know that within Azure, you have all the components to help you with your BDLC, with your bot development lifecycle. You can plan, you can build, you can test, you can publish, you can connect, and you can evaluate. Just so I complete that story, I say that you can turn on app insights inside Azure for your chatbot, and all the insights from the telemetry from that can be routed to Power BI reports, which you can evaluate, and then you can take the data out of that, and you can, as I said, go back to your drawing board. Okay, so I would probably not do a great job on this before I complete without talking about responsible AI. There's a lot of technologies and the space at which this is being made available to developers like you and me. It is important that we sort of also be cognizant about building secure apps, reliable, safe, fair, inclusive, and accountable apps. Because as the CEO of Stack Overflow, Joel Spolsky, puts it, as AI developers now, every line of code that we write is a decision that you and I make, not just for us or not just for our community, even for our families and for our friends and people who we know will probably use that AI system in the near future. So we are far more inspired to be responsible AI developers now. So we're basically building the future out of this. So yeah, so here's a quick recap. I hope you've had at least a very high level understanding of what conversational AI is and why it's kind of very important, and it's taking the center stage today, and how to easily get started. If you're a developer and your first intuition is to start getting with AI services, go for Azure Bot Service and AI services, Azure Cognitive Services. It's one of the easiest, the fastest, and the quickest way to integrate artificial intelligence into your apps and build enterprise-grade chatbots, I'd say. So yeah, thank you. And I hope I have some time for Q&A as well. I'd love to hear from you on if you've built chatbots or what your experience is in this space is. And meanwhile, I'll also take a time again to please thank all our sponsors, without which we couldn't do this event this year. So thank you to all our sponsors as well.
Yes, hi.
And I'm happy to the questions, yeah.
Thank you very much for the great presentation. At the moment, I do not see any specific questions in the chat, but I do personally have a couple of them. So I really like the parallel that you made with learning kids, the first things, and doing the same with the AI and machine learning. So very nice thing. But tell me if a new developer engineer would like to try and experiment more with the machine learning and the AI, are there any specific templates, databases where they can gather already prepared data that they can use in their tests?
Yes. So what I would also say that Microsoft Docs, or docs.microsoft.com, as we know, has got very detailed documentation on all of this, if you would like to get started there. Or I think it's the interface and the whole platform is built in a way that I wouldn't say it's no code or low code, but it's built in a way that's pretty intuitive. Like if you are a seasoned programmer and you can, as I said, you have an Azure subscription, you can jump in and get started even today. I mean, as we saw, within 5 or 10 minutes, you have a working chatbot with you. But as we all know, a prototype or a POC is rather an easy thing to do. But then you get that to, as you say, an enterprise grade production level, production quality chatbot is a huge thing. And I agree to that. But if you are a seasoned programmer who'd love to get started with that, I'd say check out the Azure Bot Service documentation in docs.microsoft.com, which will give you all the quick starts, samples, SDK support, everything that you need to get started today.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I do not see any more questions at the moment. I was hoping that some of my colleagues interested in the AI will join, and I definitely learned a lot of new things. And yeah, thank you for a very simplified view on the machine learning chatbot AI in Azure. It was a great presentation.
No problem. Yeah, I was careful not to use a lot of jargons and then confuse people. It's like they already confused with like a lot of terms and a lot of things that are doing the rounds in this space. And it's a no-brainer, guys. Anyone can get started on this today. Microsoft has built an amazing platform for this. So go dig in and go get started. So there are just two things, if I understand, if there are no questions, either they've understood everything or they've not understood anything at all. I hope it's the first one, but I keep my fingers crossed. Yep.
Yeah. I'm not sure how much people are interested at the moment in the AI, but hopefully after your presentation, they will be encouraged to at least try and play around, because as you presented, it's very, very easy to start the complete service in Azure. So with a little bit more investigation and knowledge, you can make your house chatbot and play around.
Exactly. I mean, we have lots of use cases, even in our personal lives, why we would not want a chatbot. So you can, as I said, you can build an Alexa bot in like half an hour. So because Alexa is one of the channels supported out of the box today. So I heard WhatsApp is coming soon from Microsoft. I'm waiting for that. So that'd be interesting. So get started today. It's a very, very interesting and very happening field. And, like 5 years or 10 years back when we were at least studying in college, you don't have to learn every machine learning algorithm, or you don't have to have data science skills to get started with this. This is democratization of AI, where AI developers can get started on this. So this is cool.
Yes, great. Thank you once again.
No problem. Thank you for having me. And I so appreciate Belgrade for having me today. So thank you. And I wish you all have a great conference ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day, Liji.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.